Hi friends, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie if you're new here, and today we're going to be looking at the OPI Jewel Be Bold collection. So this did come out a couple of months ago. I think I mentioned it in my Libra favorites video since I featured one of these polishes in there, and I just wasn't ready to review it yet. So now that it's December, I am fully ready to embrace all the holiday and winter collections. So let's just get into the swatches. The first shade is Mary and Ice, which is a baby pink shade filled with golden shimmer. So I'm not sure if you remember, but I actually shared this way back in October as part of my Libra favorites. So I found this one to be more on the crelly side, where it did give some patchiness or bald spots on the first coat, but I was kind of expecting that since this is a lighter shade. It did have a good formula and it looked opaque enough for me on 2 coats, but it's definitely one of those polishes that I think would probably be better off in 3 thinner coats, especially if your nails are longer. So either way, I just love this shade. It's one of my favorites, whether it's for Libra season or just from this collection in general. I just love a delicate, wintry shade like this so much. Next up, we have Feelin Berry Glam, which is a rich berry cream. So on the website, this is described as red, but there's definitely a lot of pinkish purple berry tones. So just a heads up in case you're one of those people who goes off of the website descriptions. But anyway, this is another one of my favorites from this collection. The color is absolutely gorgeous and the formula was insanely opaque in the first coat. You can even see me waving in the reflection, which I thought was just so funny. But I still did a second coat just to kind of see if it really changes anything, like if it deepens the color or if the formula looks a little bit better, maybe like fuller coverage. And I noticed a slight improvement in the coverage, but the color doesn't really change that much. The next shade is Pink, Bling, and Be Merry, which is described as a pearlescent hot pink. So this one doesn't read as a pearl finish to me because it lacks that sort of frosty look, but it definitely is very shimmery. I thought it was nice in the bottle, but it's definitely more of a thinner, buildable sheer kind of formula, so you'll more than likely need 3 coats even with shorter nails to get fuller coverage. Even at 3 coats, I feel like this wasn't 100% opaque on me. The color is really nice though, and it kind of reminds me of like silk ribbons or something like that. But yeah, I just didn't love the formula. Next we have Rhinestone Red-y, which is described as a bold pearlescent red. So I wouldn't call this a pearl finish either, but this is definitely a classic sparkly red shade that's perfect for the holidays. I thought this one had a really good formula. I found it opaque for me just on 2 coats, but it was nearly opaque on the first coat, as you can see here. But it's definitely sheer enough where I don't think you could get away with this on 1 coat. I really love the little crushed kind of flakies and how these sparkle. It just looks so glowy. And I feel like this shade almost wants to be a foil metallic because it has those little silver sparkles as well, but they're not quite as reflective as an actual foil metallic. So either way, I think this one is absolutely gorgeous and definitely one that was super close in making it in my top 5. The next shade is I Pink It's Snowing, which is one of these 3 chunky glitter formulas in this collection. So this one has big and tiny silver metallic hex glitters in a hot pink crelly base, along with a fuchsia shimmer. I personally do not like this formula with the chunky glitters, but I did find this one to be the least offensive, probably because I like the color. But yeah, formula-wise, I guess it wasn't too bad. It gave pretty even coverage, although it still was a little bit sheer on the first coat. So I only needed 2 for full coverage. And yeah, there's a lot of glitter packed in here. So definitely would recommend using a peel-off base coat just to make the removal process a lot easier. But yeah, not really crazy about this one. Next up, we have Charmed, I'm sure, which is basically the same thin shimmer formula as Pink, Bling, and Be Merry, which here is a quick side-by-side so you can see the color difference. They're definitely not similar enough where I think you have to choose one or the other, but yeah, formula-wise, it was more or less the same, though I did find this one to be more opaque for me on the second coat than I did the pink shade, so I just stopped at 2 coats. So yeah, personally, I'm again not a fan of the finish of these polishes, but the color is nice. I still think I prefer the pink one over the purple, but let me know which one you would choose out of these two. Next up, we have Bring Out the Big Gems, which is this really deep red-brown shimmery kind of shade. So I feel like this one kind of sticks out in the collection because it is so dark, but I actually really like this one. It had a great formula and gave really great coverage on the first coat, as you can see, where it was almost fully opaque. I feel like if you did a little bit of a thicker coat or just had better application, and if your nails were shorter, you could probably get away with just 1 coat if you're in a rush, but of course I'm doing 2 just to show it fully opaque. And I feel like the website photos make this one look more red, but I do love that kind of brownish tone that this has because it just really embodies the whole chestnuts roasting on the open fire. This one was super close to making it in my top 5 in case you missed my shorts, but it's definitely up there. The next polish is the Pearl of Your Dreams, which is described as a baby blue pearl shade. So this one is definitely the most frosty, but I don't know why OPI is calling all of these shades pearlescent when that's not what they are. I don't know, it's just kind of annoying to me, but this one has an almost crushed seashell kind of look with all of those flakies, kind of similar to Rhinestone Red-y, but I don't know, I guess the color of this one is just more icy and frosty looking. So the formula was good on this one. As you can see on the second coat here, it is almost fully opaque. Like there are some kind of bald spots or just areas where you can see through to my nail line a little bit more. So I was curious to see how it would look with 3 coats because again, normally I would just wear this in 2 coats and call it a day, but I actually really liked how this looked once it was built up with a 3rd coat because that blue just pops so much more. So it just adds to the whole wintry, icy kind of vibe, and it just became one of my favorites. So yeah, this one is just depending on your preference and how many coats you want to wear it in, but I really like this one. Next, we have Decked to the Pines, an almost pastel green metallic with gold shimmer. I'm normally not crazy about metallic finishes because they tend to be very brushstrokey, but the good thing is that they always have really great coverage where it's pretty much opaque in the first coat. I still did 2 to even out any uneven spots, and yeah, you definitely want to be careful with your application to make sure the brush strokes are as straight as possible. And you also want to make sure to not cap your free edge, or if you are going to immediately repaint your nail to kind of get rid of them, if that makes sense. But anyway, I shared this a long time ago, but a little trick that I learned from JustFace90 here on YouTube to diffuse the brush strokes is to sponge on your last layer and look at the difference that it makes. It is just so soft and satiny looking, and in my opinion, just way more wearable. Up next, we have Tealing Festive, which is a bold teal shimmer polish. This one is pretty deep, but oh my god, the formula really impressed me where it was the most full coverage on the first coat, aside from the cream that we saw earlier. You know I'm a fan of teal shades, and I think this one is so perfect for the holiday season, especially with the addition of those little silver kind of flecks. So I still did do 2 coats, but this is definitely one of those shades that I think you can just get away with 1 coat, especially if you're in a rush, doing a last-minute mani. But yeah, you'll have to let me know what you think of this one because it is for sure one of my favorites. and I think this is just so great on its own or in nail art. Next we have OPI'm A Gem, which is like a total 180 from the last polish for me. So this is a black jelly with a teal shimmer and silver metallic hex glitters in big and small sizes. I'm not sure if this one just had more of those bigger hex glitters, but I found this one a little more finicky to apply, but maybe I just found it annoying because I didn't like it. But it was pretty much opaque for me in 2 coats because of the black base. But yeah, I just don't like how this looks with those bigger hex glitters. So I'm definitely curious to hear what you all think about these 2 glitter polishes, because it kind of reminds me of Pineapples Have Peelings too, where it's like, just why? But I might just be a little critical. The next shade is Snow Holding Back, which is a sheer white polish packed with gold shimmer. So this is definitely the sheerest one in the collection, where you will still see some nail line after 3 coats, but I honestly didn't mind it for this shade. I just really love the white and gold combo for winter polishes, so this was another one of my favorites. It's just so beautiful and dainty to me. I think this one could also look really nice layered in 1 or 2 coats over white, either a cream or more of a crelly kind of finish. And honestly, it's probably sheer enough to layer over any kind of light shade. You probably will get more of the yellow golden sheen coming through than the white, but yeah, this one for me is just so beautiful on its own. We're finally nearing the end, and we have a couple of New Year's Eve themed polishes, and the first one is Go Big or Go Chrome, which probably has the best name in the whole collection. But this one isn't really a chrome polish. It's described as metallic on the website, but honestly, I wouldn't even call it that either. As you can see on the first coat, it's almost like this really fine silvery foil microflake kind of formula. So it was a little bit sparse on the first coat, but it basically was fully opaque on the second. So personally, I think this would work really well for a glitter gradient over a sheer polish, or even over black if you really want to get into the New Year's kind of spirit. But on second thought, I was like, oh, this kind of reminds me of, that chrome nail trend where people are layering jellies over them. And so I decided to grab Verdigris Jelly from Cirque, which I have been loving this season. And I decided to do 2 coats to see how it would look. And in hindsight, I really should have went with a different color because it kind of just ended up looking like Tealing Festive. So my apologies for that, but I feel like it still was something fun to try. So if you do have a lot of jelly polishes in your collection and you are interested in that kind of jelly chrome layered kind of trend that's going on, but you don't have any chrome powder or polishes, this polish is definitely like a really good layering tool for that. So I don't know, I thought it was pretty fun to just have like a different use for this instead of just a kind of silver metallic for the holidays. So you'll have to let me know what you think of this whole little trend, or just chrome nails in general, because I know it's kind of been overdone a little bit, but I think it's really pretty. So I'm curious to try some other shades over this. Next up, we have Sleigh Bells Bling, which is a classic gold, actual metallic formula, unlike the last shade. So this was definitely the most similar to Deck to the Pines in terms of formula, where it was nearly opaque on the first coat, but still pretty brushstrokey. So I decided to do my sponge layer on the second coat to show you how that looks here, and it just looks so pretty and soft, but it's not totally even, so maybe you could brush on or sponge on a second layer, but honestly, I think this is a shade that I would rather use in nail art because I just don't really love this tone of gold for a full manicure. It's a little too much for me. And finally, the last shade is Pop the Baubles, which is a pretty basic glitter topper that has big silver metallic and small gold metallic glitters in a clear base. So I decided to show this one over black since that's how I personally would wear this instead of trying to layer it up on its own. And I think it looks nice in one coat. I didn't need to fish for the glitters or anything, but as you can see, I did have to do a little bit of manipulation to kind of fill in the bald spots here and there. But other than that, it wasn't too bad. I just wasn't really crazy about this one. I feel like if they added a little hollow, it would have given it some extra oomph. So that wraps up my swatch and review for the OPI Jewel Be Bold collection. So as always, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this release because I'm not really feeling it. I feel like it's definitely very cute in theory, but I think I'm just very overwhelmed by the fact that it is 14 polishes. I think if it was like half the size, but still, you know, more or less the same colors, I would be more excited about it. And I feel like that's kind of crazy to think too, because I'm such a huge fan of like the berry magenta kind of shades for this time of year. And even though most of the top row consists of those colors, I'm just not that crazy for them. You know, it's just a little excessive, I think. So there are some colors that I love and obviously some that I don't love, but I'd love to know what your thoughts are down below in the comments so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.